Well, I'm going to go next, I guess. I wanted to follow up Renee's because I knew hers was talking about bodily functions, which kind of walks nicely into my story. I was a Boy Scout. I'm an Eagle Scout. And so this is kind of about, well, it's not kind of, it is about Boy Scout camp and Boy Scouts. It's called On My Honor, I Will Do My Duty. It was June 2001, and my family and I were in Boston to see a friend star alongside Tom Selleck in the revival of 1,000 Clowns. We decided to make a day of it, touring the city and continually asking my mother what she was going to do when she finally met Magnum P.I. She's not the type to get flustered around famous people, but it was obvious that the anticipation of standing before his mustache was getting to her. "What do I say to him?" she said. "What am I going to say? What do you say to a man like that?" I laughed, thinking she was being dramatic, only to find myself asking the same questions 11 years later, just prior to meeting David Sedaris. To take her mind off things, we did some shopping, walking up Newbury Street before making our way over to Tremont, where, right in the heart of the theater district, there was a store called Jack's Joke Shop. I'd heard about the place for years, mainly from my friend Ben, who'd gone there with his parents and returned home with dollar snatchers, snapping gum, hand buzzers, and an assortment of items that either produced farting noises or produced farting sounds. Not that he needed help with any of that. From then on, I was determined to get there. Like peeing in the woods or drawing a face on my butt cheeks, pranking was one of my favorite pastimes. And if somewhere there was a business dedicated to its pursuit, it deserved my financial support. We found it in a little storefront across the street from a theater. Were it not for the large sign or the masks and gags inhabiting the front window, it would look like any other urban convenience store where you might buy your cigarettes. Walking in changed everything, though. Masks and wigs hung from the ceiling, and almost every square inch of the shop was covered in packaged pranks. They seemed to egg you on from behind their cellophane. "Come on, try me," they yelled. "I dare ya!" I walked around for 10 minutes, playing with things here and there, but not really finding anything I wanted to spend my money on. In fact, I was about to leave when I noticed a small basket next to the register with a sign that read, "Fake Human Turds, $3. I was intrigued. I'd had fake dog poop and had seen fake cat poop in magazine ads, but never had I come across the fake human kind. This was a whole new game. About 5 or 6 inches long, each piece was made of a hard, rough plastic and finished with a nice shellac to give it that just manufactured look. In your hand, it was obvious it wasn't real, but when you put it on the floor a few feet away or so, it could fool even the most decorated of scatologists. I had to have one. I decided upon a slight S-shaped piece, as to me it looked the most guilty. There were also straight and curved pieces, but if I was going to use this to prank people and put it in places that no normal, strong-boweled person would defecate, it needed to have a story. Perhaps the suspect, who we'll call the Mad Crapper, was in the library, squatting next to the Steinbeck section, because he'd been forced to read The Grapes of Wrath during summer vacation. I hate Steinbeck. And for no rational reason, I hate him. Mid-movement, he hears footsteps and turns to look, which causes him to pivot his buttocks. This in turn alters the course of, well, everything, leaving the product to abandon its preordained form and assume a "this lane ends in 500 feet" shape. I played this story out every which way. The bum in the alley, the desperate jogger, the disgruntled employee at the candy bar factory, until I concluded it would work in almost any situation. Completely sold, I handed the cashier my money and walked out into the world, ready to have some fun. When we arrived at the theater that evening, I pulled the turd from my pocket and showed it to Ben, as well as my other best friend, Jared. Our resolve was almost immediate. Place it in the aisle for some unsuspecting audience members to stumble upon, then watch as they recoil in horror. What we failed to anticipate was the plausibility factor. Yes, truth is often stranger than fiction, but when you're dealing in the realm of feces, there is a threshold of believability, especially when 3 14-year-old boys are eagerly staring at you as you walk towards a brown object lying on the floor. Within 2 minutes, we moved on to plan B, put it in a bathroom stall and wait. Ben took the lead on this one, walking into a stall and sitting down. We weren't exactly sure what he was going to do, but we knew that no matter what, it was going to be good. When an older gentleman entered the stall next to him, we held our breath in eager anticipation. Ben groaned. He then let out a large farting sound, and the turd dropped on the floor. This was a freshman mistake. How he'd forgotten that the object in his hand was crafted out of hard plastic, I'll never know, but it bounced loudly across the floor, like a child's toy in church. The gentleman in the stall laughed, then he reached down and picked it up. "This is pretty good," he said, seated on the toilet. "Where did you get this?" We didn't achieve success for another 2 days, until we were lounging on the beach on Newfound Lake in New Hampshire. We'd left the turd right next to a dock, about 20 yards off from where we were seated, when an old man spotted it. "Barb! Hey, Barb!" he yelled. "What?" said his wife, responding. "That son of a bitch Great Dane's been down here again. Took a shit right next to the dock." "What?" she said. "You gotta be kidding me." "No," he said. "The nerve of those people. Look at the size of this thing." Giddy with joy, we could hardly contain ourselves. I still have bruises from the ribbing I received. "Oh my God," Barb said, finally seeing. "What the hell are they feeding that thing?" "I don't know, but you can be sure as hell they'll be hearing about this. That son of a bitch, if I told him once, I told him twice. Bring a friggin' bag and pick up after your horse, goddammit. People don't wear shoes down here. You might as well feed me a goddamn ringworm." The pranking essentially stopped there, as Ben's dad foresaw the trouble we might cause, and explained to the guy that what he was looking at was merely a gag. In fact, the turd didn't do much of anything the next 2 weeks. Life works in seasons that way. Marked periods of rest usually anticipate marked periods of activity, and that's exactly what was coming down the line, in the form of Boy Scout camp. If most other areas in life had a threshold of plausibility when it came to feces, Boy Scout camp did not. There, like Kevin Garnett would later say, anything is possible. Spend time around boys under the age of 18, and you'll find they are generally obsessed with one of two things: blowing shit up, and all matters concerning defecation. Poop, things that look like poop, things that smell like poop, places you can poop, places you shouldn't poop but are now determined as hell to do so. All of this becomes amplified when you place prepubescent and pubescent boys in groups of rank and order. Socially, you might be an outcast amongst boys, but with one swoop of a poop, you can find yourself the hero of them all. And that's exactly where I found myself. I packed the turd in my trunk thinking it would be a lot of fun to put in the showers or near the trading post, pranks that I can enjoy on my own or in the company of a few boys, but little did I know the power it would earn me. My troop, Troop 1 Hope Valley, consisted mostly of boys older at the time. We were about 30 strong, and if I was to aptly describe us as a group within the Boy Scout organization, it would be in physics terms. We were the antimatter of Boy Scouts. Somewhere there existed a model of what it meant to be a scout, and we were the exact antithesis to it. Loud, obnoxious, and rebellious, we were the troop from hell. When other troops would march around camp in formation and to normal tunes, we would lumber around it, making fun of people and singing, "We are the best, who are we? We're the troop from Hope Valley. When in doubt, whip it out, make the ladies scream and shout." Sound off. When other troops would go to the waterfront to swim and play basketball, we would go to see how many of us could get kicked out in 30 seconds. When other troops would fish off the dam near our campsite, trying to enjoy the afternoon or earn their fishing merit badges, we would fire water balloons at them with a launcher that could reach 150 yards when loaded correctly. We shot these at sailboats and kayakers as well, sometimes causing them to capsize. This was at least always the goal. We didn't take part of all the dining hall cheers, we didn't tuck in our uniforms, and we most certainly did not attend the Saturday night show, which was a collection of hackneyed skits we'd seen since the time of being Cub Scouts. The one time we did go, though, we made sure to consume enough beans to audibly fart during the entire performance, which we proceeded to do. It's no surprise then that the majority of camp hated us. From leaders to counselors to attendees, we drew looks that only Hitler might were he to walk into a bris. We were a far cry from the Sorry. Russell, are you offended by that? Russell's Jewish. Are you okay? Okay, just making sure. We were a far cry from the troop we were in the 30s, the one that left school to help fight the fire raging through camp at the time. For that, we were awarded the best campsite on the property, one that, for its picturesqueness, would later be used in Wes Anderson's Moonrise Kingdom, and one that, due to our obsession with fireworks, we now threaten to burn down every night. Amongst this group, I was somewhat of an outcast, young, nerdy, and quiet. I tended to stay towards the back of the pack. But as the technology boom has showed us over the past 50 years, every geek has his way of standing out. Bill Gates had Microsoft, Mark Zuckerberg had Facebook, and I had a fake human turd. I don't remember how they found out about it. I probably flaunted it in their face, but once they did, I was in. We proceeded to leave that thing everywhere. The trading post, the ropes course, the rifle range. My favorite moment came during a pickup game of volleyball. Next to the court ran one of the few roads that crisscrossed the camp. Troops would often march by, hooping and hollering, and trying to appear like they embodied the definition of scouting better than anyone else. That day, we put the turd in the road. At first, a few campers walked by and audibly expressed their disgust. "Aw, gross," they yelled, half disgusted and half awed. Then came the marching troop. Knowing full well what was coming for them, a calm seemed to descend upon the earth. I've tried for years to describe the looks that beset our faces that afternoon, and the best thing that I can come up with is from a Zora Neale Hurston novel. Their eyes were watching God, it was called, and so were ours. The scene that ensued was a modern take on the pool scene in Caddyshack. As they came upon it, shouts of, "Holy shit, watch out!" erupted from the ranks. The troop broke formation and scattered as more and more of them stumbled to avoid it. What was left was the mere shell of control, a hollow remnant of organization and ego trying to assert order in the universe. To this day, I've never seen something more beautiful. We continued to prank people with it around camp, like a troupe of mischievous players building up to the final act. This fittingly came near the end of the week, during the annual bake-off. Like the rest of camp activities, our troop normally ignored this, thinking it a waste of valuable time to bake a pie in a Dutch oven. When we did partake, we merely drove into town and bought something from the grocery store, pawning it off as our own. And that week was no different. We didn't plan on entering anything until someone came charging into my tent, out of breath. "Where is the turd?" he asked. "In my trunk," I responded. "Why?" "We need it for the bake contest," he said. "We got a vanilla cake from Stop and Shop and some chocolate syrup, and we want to put the turd on top of the cake, drizzle some syrup on it, add a sprig of toilet paper, and call it the latrine cake. What do you think?" Without saying a word, I opened my trunk, pulled it out, and handed it to him. "Thanks," he said. "This is going to be great." I told him I agreed. I wasn't present for the judging that afternoon, but apparently the cake was disqualified almost instantaneously. It was then removed from the dining hall and brought to it the head of camp, who called for my scoutmaster to have a chat. I'm not sure exactly what was said, but according to him, we were nearly kicked out. They'd had enough of our shenanigans, and were ready to see us go. Yet, in the end, for some reason, they let us stay. After that, I never saw the turd again. Rumor had it stayed in the office the rest of the summer, and that the staff had a lot of fun with it. A thought that still irks me to this day. A few years later, I attempted to move on, going back to Jack's Joke Shop and buying another, but it was never the same, the fecal equivalent of a rebound. I eventually gave it away to a friend at school, who did God knows what with it, and then I moved to Tennessee. I still think of it from time to time when I'm visiting Boston or shopping in a grocery store and scanning the bakery, walk by a vanilla cake drizzled with chocolate. Thank you. I'm always winded after reading. It's like I don't breathe while I'm doing it. Just kind of go with it.